Sometimes you read something, maybe the historical text, and it just clicks, right? Completely changes how you see a whole culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got one of those today, a really fascinating piece. It's almost poetic, actually, not just dates and names.
Right, it feels deeper. We're diving into the Jinachuchki. That translates to divine lineage and righteous rule.
That's the one. And it's not just some dusty old chronicle. It was written in 1339 by a court noble, Kitabatake Chikafutsu,
Yeah, 1339. For whom?
for the young emperor Go-Murakami. And this is crucial. It was written during the Nanbokuchu period, a major civil war.
So context is everything here. Two competing imperial courts.
Exactly. So this text, it was a powerful assertion, really, a political tool to boost the Southern court's claim, their legitimacy.
Got it. So more than just history, it's making a case. What's the core argument then? The main thing Chikafuso wanted people, especially the young emperor, to understand.
The absolute core is Japan's uniqueness. It argues, very forcefully, that Japan's imperial line is divinely established by the gods themselves, starting with the sun goddess, and crucially, it's unbroken.
Unbroken, unlike other places.
Precisely. It sets Japan apart from, well, everywhere else. It blends myth, history, philosophy, even political theory, you could say, to build this case for Japan's divine foundation. It's a claim of exceptionalism, really.
And to explore this, we're using excerpts from the translated Jino Shichuki, Divine Lineage and Righteous Rule, and also looking at the Japanese wiki source for the original.
That's right. Gives us a good view of the arguments.
Okay, let's start right there. The text opens with this incredibly bold statement, "Great Japan is a divine land." What's the impact of starting like that?
Huge impact, especially back then. It's not just patriotism, it's theology. It's saying, right off the bat, that Japan's essence, its very ground, is sacred. And only here does the imperial line stretch back to the heavens without a single break.
And it doesn't just state it, it makes comparisons, right, to drive the point home.
Yes, very explicitly. It contrasts Japan with the big neighbors. China, for instance, which it calls Shintan.
And how does it describe China?
As chaotic is the word used. It points to the frequent changes in ruling families 36 times after the legendary Fuxi, it claims. Power struggles, commoners seizing the throne, even barbarians.
Wow, okay, so painting China is unstable, the message being
that Japan, by contrast, has this divinely ordained stability. An unbroken line means legitimate, continuous rule, unlike the constant upheaval over there.
Makes sense. And what about India? Tenjiku.
A slightly different angle there. It acknowledges India had this sort of democratically chosen first king, the democratic king.
Interesting.
But the text points out even their royal lines didn't last. They faltered. You had kings of inferior seed, it says, sometimes ruling the whole place. The implication is clear. No lineage there matches Japan's purity and continuity.
So it's consistently reinforcing this idea of Japan's unique, unbroken divine mandate by contrasting it with others.
Exactly. It's a comparative argument for exceptionalism.
And does it use Japan's own names to bolster this? The different names for the country itself?
It does, yeah, quite beautifully. It mentions Yamato, the oldest name, maybe meaning mountain path or mountain dwelling, rooted in the land itself. Then there's the really long evocative one, Toyashihara Chihonoaki no Mizuho no Kuni.
Okay, break that down for us.
It translates roughly to the land of abundant reed plains and 1,500 autumns of bountiful rice shoots. So connecting divinity to the land's fertility, its agricultural blessing.
That's powerful imagery. What else?
Yashima no Kuni, land of the 8 great islands, referring to the creation myth, the first islands born from the gods, and Akitsushima, Dragonfly Island.
Dragonfly Island. Where does that come from?
Apparently, Emperor Jimmu, the first human emperor, thought the shape of the main island resembled a dragonfly.
Huh. Okay. Any others?
It also mentions Fusu, which is interesting. It's this mythical tree out east where the sun rises, and apparently that's what outsiders sometimes call Japan.
Like a mythical sunrise land.
Yeah. And then, of course, Nihon or Nippon, origin of the sun. The text notes this one came later, influenced by how Tang China saw Japan.
Which leads to that linguistic point you mentioned earlier. The characters Su literally mean sun's origin, but the text says they were often read as Yamato. Why is that significant?
It's really telling about cultural identity. They adopted the powerful Chinese writing system, but the indigenous name, Yamato, held such deep cultural and you could say spiritual weight that it overwrote the literal meaning of the characters in pronunciation.
So even when borrowing, they prioritize their own roots.
Exactly. It shows this confidence, this insistence on maintaining their core identity, even while adapting external influences. A kind of linguistic assertion of uniqueness.
That really underscores the theme. Okay, from national identity, the text goes way back to the very beginning, the age of gods. How does it describe creation?
It starts with Kantan, chaos, like a cosmic chicken egg sort of swirling with yin and yang potential.
A familiar concept in East Asian cosmology.
Right. And then, out of this chaos, things separate. The pure light stuff rises to become heaven. The heavy, murky stuff sinks to form earth.
And the first deity
Emerges like a reed shoot, pushing through mud, it says. This becomes Kuni no Tokotachi no Mikoko, or sometimes called Ame no Minako Nushi no Kami, the central primordial god embodying the 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, water.
the building blocks of the universe.
Essentially, yes. But then we get to the more hands-on creators, Izanagi and Izanami. The text is very clear. They are the male and female principles, the yin and yang made manifest.
So Japan's own primordial divine couple, what do?
They stand on the Amano Ukihashi, the floating bridge of heaven, and they have this spear, the Amano Nuboko, the heavenly jeweled spear.
What a name.
Isn't it? They dip it into the ocean below, the primordial brine, and stir, and when they lift the spear, the drops that fall.
Let me guess, they form land.
They coagulate and form the first island, Ranogorajima. Self-coagulating island, the very beginning of the physical world created by divine action.
Wow. And after that first island,
They get busy. They give birth to the main islands of Japan, the Yashima, the 8 great islands of Waji, Shikoku as Iyo, Kyushu as Tsukushi, and so on, including the main island Shamato Toiwaki Tsushima.
naming each one as it's born.
Yes, each with its own identity. And after the islands, they bear countless other kami gods of mountains, seas, trees, grass, populating the world with divinity.
And then come the really major players, right? The children who shape the cosmos.
Indeed. First is Amaterasu Mikami, the sun goddess. Born radiant, illuminating everything, she's sent to rule heaven and the day, supreme deity.
Okay, next.
Tsukuyomi, the moon god. Born next, sent to rule the night, complementing his sister.
Sun and moon. Makes sense. Who else?
Well, there's Hiruko, the leech child. An unfortunate birth apparently couldn't stand after 3 years, so they cast him adrift in a reed boat.
A flawed creation even among gods.
Seems so. A brief but intriguing detail. And then the fourth, hugely important one, Susanoo no Mikoto, described as brave but, unruly, wild. He displeased his parents.
And his destiny.
He's banished to Nino-kuni, the land of roots, basically the underworld or a distant land. So you have this interesting dynamic. Sun goddess ruling heaven, moon god ruling night, and the chaotic storm god banished. And importantly, it's female, male, male.
That order seems significant. Yeah. What happens with Susanoo's unruliness?
Oh, it causes major trouble before he leaves. He goes on a rampage, destroys Amaterasu's sacred rice paddies, defiles her hall, and the last straw throws a heavenly horse, flayed backwards, into her sacred weaving hall, killing one of her attendants.
That's intense. How does Amaterasu react?
She's furious and perhaps frightened. She retreats into the Amano Iwato, the heavenly rock cave, and seals the entrance.
And the consequence.
Total darkness, constant night throughout heaven and earth, cosmic crisis. The natural order completely breaks down because the primary deity has withdrawn.
So how do they fix it? You can't have eternal night.
The Yayorozu no Kami, the 8 million gods, they all gather by the cave entrance. They need a plan. They have deities, cracked special items. Ishikorido makes a perfect mirror. The Yata no Kagami.
The mirror. One of the future regalia.
The very same. And Amenotaro Shitama makes jewels, the Asakani no Magatama, also future regalia. Then the goddess Ameno Uzume performs this rather bawdy, ecstatic dance on an overturned tub, making all the gods roar with laughter.
A bit of divine revelry to lure her out.
Exactly. Amaterasu hears the laughter, becomes curious. Why are they celebrating when the world is dark? She peeks out, just a crack. They show her the mirror, saying, "Look, we have found a deity even more radiant than you." She leans out further to see, and Ameno Tajikaro, the strong-arm god, grabs her and pulls her out. Another god quickly seals the cave entrance behind her.
And light returns. Order restored through collective divine effort, ingenuity, and even humor.
Precisely. It's a foundational story about restoring harmony, and Susanoo, he gets properly banished after this.
But his story isn't over, right? He has a redemption arc.
He does. He descends from heaven to Izumo on earth. There he finds an elderly couple weeping. They tell him their daughters have been eaten year after year by a monstrous 8-headed, 8-tailed serpent, the Yamata no Orochi. Only one daughter remains.
A classic hero trope emerging.
Absolutely. Susanoo offers to save the last daughter if they give her to him in marriage. They agree. He devises a plan, gets the serpent drunk on super strong sake, then cuts off all its heads while it's passed out.
Clever. And inside the serpent?
Inside one of its tails, his sword hits something hard. He cuts it open and finds a magnificent sword. The Ameno Murakumo no Tsurugi, heavenly cloud-gathering sword.
Wow. A divine weapon from the belly of a beast.
Yes. And recognizing its importance, Susanoo presents this sword to Amaterasu, maybe as an apology or a sign of respect. It symbolizes bringing order out of chaos and a formerly disruptive force contributing something vital.
And this sword becomes?
The Kusanagi no Tsurugi, the third of the imperial regalia. Its origin is tied directly to Susanoo's heroic redemptive act.
Which brings us neatly to the next big phase. The Tensan Kurin, the descent of the gods' descendants to rule Earth.
Right. Amaterasu decides it's time for her line to rule the terrestrial world, the central land of reed plains, Ashihara no Katsukuni. She chooses her grandson, Ninigi no Mikoto.
Her grandson. And she sends him down with
the 3 sacred treasures we've just discussed. The mirror, Yata no Kagami, the jewel, Yasukani no Magatama, and the sword, Kusanagi no Tsurugi.
And the Jinni Shochiki explains what these mean, doesn't it? They're not just symbols.
Oh, absolutely not. They are the embodiment of the virtues needed for righteous rule. Chikafusa spells it out.
Okay, let's hear it. The mirror.
Represents Shijiki, honesty, uprightness. Like a mirror reflects everything, good or bad, without distortion. A ruler must see things clearly without personal bias. It's the basis of fairness.
Makes sense. The jewel.
That's Niwua Zenjun, compassion, benevolence, gentleness. It's the source of empathy, the ruler's duty to care for the people.
Honesty, compassion, and the sword.
Guri Ketsudan, wisdom and decisiveness. The ability to make clear judgments, to act decisively, to pacify the unruly and maintain order when needed. It's not about aggression, but wise strength.
So honesty, compassion, and wisdom. The text basically says these are non-negotiable for a ruler.
Explicitly, it states that without these 3 virtues, embodied by the treasures, a ruler cannot govern the world effectively. They are as fundamental and enduring as the sun, moon, and stars. It's a divine job description.
A powerful mandate. So these principles guide the transition to the human age, starting with Emperor Jimmu.
Yes, Ninigi's descendant. Jimmu is presented as the first human emperor. He leads his people on this eastern expedition from Kyushu, eventually settling in Yamato and establishing the first capital at Kashihara. That's the official start of the human imperial line.
And the text mentions this is when formal titles appear. Tendra for emperor, court ranks like Asen, Sukune, Omi.
Exactly. It signals the beginning of a more structured imperial state, though, interestingly, in the early days, they apparently moved the capital every time a new emperor took the throne.
A nomadic court. Why?
Perhaps related to Shinto purification beliefs about death, wanting a fresh start. But that practice changed.
And a key change involved those sacred treasures again during Emperor Sujin's reign. He separated them from the palace.
A very significant move. The text suggests Sujin felt maybe the divine power of the objects was too intense, or perhaps there was a need to distinguish the sacred from the political. He entrusted the mirror and sword to his daughter, Princess Toyosuke Iri, to be enshrined separately.
Setting a precedent.
Yes. And this eventually led, during the next reign, Emperor Suinin to Princess Yamato-hime establishing the Grand Shrine of Ise, specifically for the sacred mirror, Amaterasu's symbol. It became, and still is, the most important shrine in Japan. The sword went elsewhere initially.
So a formal separation of the ritual center from the governing center.
Fascinating. The text also highlights rulers known for specific virtues, right? Like Emperor Nintoku. Oh yes, Nintoku is the poster child for benevolence, for that Nyuwa Zenjun represented by the jewel. The story goes he climbed a tower, looked out, and saw no smoke rising from the people's chimneys.
Meaning they were too poor to cook.
Exactly. So he suspended all taxes and forced labor for 3 years. Just stopped collecting.
For 3 years. That's radical.
It is. The text says his own palace fell into disrepair, roof leaking, walls crumbling, but he didn't care. Later, he climbed the tower again, saw smoke everywhere, and composed that famous poem, "Smoke rises from the people's hearths, the people are prospering." He rejoiced in their well-being above his own comfort.
What a powerful example, especially for Chikafusa writing during a time of hardship and war. A clear message to the rulers of his day.
Unmistakably, this is the ideal ruler embodying compassion.
And it wasn't just emperors. The text acknowledges powerful women too, like Empress Jingu.
Yes, Empress Jingu ruled as regent after her husband's death. She's depicted as this divinely empowered figure who led a successful military expedition to Korea, conquering Silla, Paekche, and Goguryeo. It claims bringing back tribute and establishing ties. Her divine power is emphasized.
And then Empress Suiko.
Suiko is significant because she was the first woman to actually ascend the throne as Empress Regnant, not just a regent consort, a historical first.
And she worked closely with
Her nephew and regent, the famous Prince Shotoku, a towering figure. Empress Suiko basically entrusted the affairs of state to him. He's credited with creating the 17-article constitution, Japan's first, and sending official envoys to Sui dynasty China, really opening up diplomatic channels.
Shudoku is also linked to Buddhism, isn't he? How does the Jinyu Shuchiki, a fundamentally Shinto-centric text, handle the arrival of this major foreign religion?
Carefully, but ultimately it integrates it. It notes Buddhism arrived from Paekche in Korea around 538 CE during Emperor Kinmei's reign. Initially, yes, there was resistance. Some clans like the Mononobe argued against worshipping foreign kami.
A clash of traditions.
Right. But others, like the Soga clan, championed it. And later rulers, Emperor Yumei, Shotoku's father, and Prince Shotoku himself became devout Buddhists. Shotoku built major temples, promoted the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha.
How did they reconcile it with the native divine lineage?
Through syncretism, essentially finding ways for them to coexist and even merge. A prime example given is Emperor Jin, the 16th emperor, much earlier than Shotoku. He was later posthumously identified and worshipped as Hachiman Daibosatsu, Hachiman the Great Bodhisattva.
So a Shinto deity, or an emperor revered as one, also becomes a Buddhist bodhisattva.
Exactly. Hachiman became this hugely important protector deity, embodying Buddhist virtues like the Eightfold Path while still being intrinsically Japanese. The text presents this as a successful blending, showing Buddhism could be incorporated into Japan's unique spiritual framework without disrupting the divine imperial line.
That's a clever way to handle it. The text also covers major political shifts, like the Taika reforms.
Yes, a crucial turning point. During Empress Kuryoku's reign, the Soga clan had become too powerful. Soga no Emishi and his son Iruka were acting like rulers themselves, calling their home a palace, their kids princes. A real challenge to imperial authority.
So how was it resolved?
Prince Nakanoya, who would later become Emperor Tenji, conspired with Nakatomi no Kamatari, founder of the Fujiwara clan. They staged a coup, assassinating Soga no Ruka right in front of the empress during a court ceremony.
Dramatic stuff. And the result?
The Soga clan's power was broken. Nakanoye, first as prince and then as Emperor Tenji, along with Kamatari, pushed through the Taika reforms. These centralized the government, adopted Chinese-style administrative structures, ministries, land reforms, basically establishing direct imperial rule over the whole country. It reaffirmed the emperor's supreme position.
So, restoration of imperial power. But then, ironically, the family of Kamatari, the Fujiwara, becomes incredibly powerful later on. Right?
Indeed. The text acknowledges this. It mentions the capital moves Empress Genmei, moving it to Nara, Heijikyu, and Emperor Kanmu establishing Heian-kyu, modern Kyoto, which Prince Shotoku supposedly prophesied would last for ages.
A four gods corresponding land.
That's the term, yeah, geomantically auspicious. And in Heian-kyus, the Fujiwara clan, Kamatari's descendants, really cemented their influence. Fujiwara no Yoshifusa became the first person not of imperial blood to be appointed Sesshu regent for a child emperor, then Kanpaku, regent for an adult emperor.
So they were effectively running the government for long periods. How does Chikafusa square that with the unbroken divine line theory? Doesn't it undermine it?
He navigates it carefully. The Fujiwara power is presented as operating under the ultimate authority of the emperor. The emperor always remained the sacred, legitimizing figurehead, the source of sovereignty, even if the Fujiwara held the practical reins of power through marriage politics and regencies. The system bent, but the divine line itself wasn't seen as broken. It was still the Fujiwara governing on behalf of the emperor.
A flexible framework, then. You also mentioned a middle restorer, Emperor Kitai.
Yes, this is another key point for Chikafusa's argument about the line's resilience. Emperor Kitai was the 27th emperor. The direct line from his predecessors was failing, no clear heir. So the court officials searched and found Kitai, who was a fifth-generation descendant of Emperor Shun, the one who became Hachiman.
So from a collateral branch, quite distant.
Quite distant, yes. But still descended from Shun, still part of the imperial bloodline, he was invited to take the throne. His reign is called a chuko, a restoration or revival.
Why is this example so important for the Jinyu Shishki's thesis?
Because it demonstrates for Chikufusa that the divine mandate resides in the entire lineage, traced back to Amaterasu. Even if the direct father-to-son succession falters, the divine quality persists in the wider family, and the throne can be rightfully filled from a related branch. It proves the line is truly unbroken, in essence, even if the path isn't always straight. It's a powerful counter to potential arguments about breaks in succession.
That makes a lot of sense in terms of bolstering the Southern court's legitimacy. During the Civil War, they represented the true line, however it traced back.
Precisely. The lineage itself conferred the right to rule.
Towards the end, the text broadens its scope, doesn't it? Talking about all sorts of ways and arts.
It does. It emphasizes that a good ruler and a well-run state needs more than just Shinto rituals or military strength. It explicitly mentions Confucianism, Buddhism, Taoism, but also things we might see as less profound, like poetry, music, medicine, even games like Go.
Why include things like poetry or games?
The argument is that all these disciplines, all these ways, Michi, are valuable. They cultivate the mind, bring order, benefit the people, or provide necessary skills. A wise ruler shouldn't discard any of them. They all have their place.
Like the mirror reflecting everything.
Exactly. That analogy is used. Just as a mirror reflects all things impartially, a ruler should recognize the value in all these different paths and arts. They aren't just distractions. They contribute to a well-rounded, well-governed society, and the underlying virtue connecting them all.
Let me guess. Honesty.
Honesty. Shichiki. Whatever path you follow, whatever art you practice, do it with sincerity and uprightness. That's the ultimate foundation for both personal conduct and good governance.
So a truly holistic vision of righteous rule, rooted in divine mandate but expressed through broad learning and fundamental honesty.
That's a great summary of it.
What a journey through the Jinsu Shtuti. Really is this incredible tapestry, isn't it? Weaving myth, history, political argument, and this deep philosophical belief in Japan's unique, unbroken divine lineage.
It really is. From Izanagi and Izanami storing the ocean to the profound symbolism of the three sacred treasures, honesty, compassion, wisdom, and then seeing those ideals reflected or sometimes contrasted in the stories of emperors like the benevolent Intoku or empresses like Suiko working with Prince Shitoku.
Yeah, the whole text keeps circling back to those core virtues as the bedrock of legitimate rule, the standard set by the gods themselves.
And remembering it was written during a brutal civil war makes that emphasis even more poignant. It's a call back to first principles, an assertion of an eternal, divinely ordained order that stands above the messy conflicts of the human world. A stark contrast to the narrative of dynastic cycles it paints for China.
So thinking about that,
Yeah.
what does it really mean for a nation's sense of self, its identity, to be built on a foundational story like this? One that so deliberately intertwines myth and history into this continuous sacred narrative.
That's the big question, isn't it? And maybe for us, looking back, what can we take away from a text that puts virtues like honesty and compassion, Shujiki and uses engine, right at the very center of leadership? Not just as nice ideals, but as essential requirements, especially when things are tough.
It really makes you think, what are the foundational stories, the core principles that truly hold a society together through centuries of change? And how do those ancient narratives continue to echo, even today?
A lot to ponder there. How much of national identity rests on these kinds of deeply rooted, almost timeless stories? A fascinating question to leave with.